Germany was once the economic powerhouse of Europe. Was. Because after years and years of decline, we're now being called the sick man of Europe. What happened? How did one of the richest and most stable countries in the world that seemed unshakable end up like this? Experts call it a polycrisis, a perfect storm of three major problems hitting all at once. Now the big question is this just a temporary downturn which will be over soon, or the beginning of a collapse Germany might never recover from? Let's dive into the facts behind Germany's fall and what must be done to rebuild the country's future, and maybe even yours too. Germany's economy has come to a standstill. While the US economy has grown by almost 15% since the pandemic and China by more than twice as much, Germany's economy is still stuck at pre-pandemic levels. We're standing still while the rest of the world moves forward. And if the forecasts are right and our economy shrinks again in 2025, it would mark the longest recession in post-war German history. Why is this happening and what can we do about it? Let's start with taxes. Germany has one of the highest corporate tax rates in the developed world. Companies pay around 30% on their profits, one major reason why businesses are moving their investments abroad and fleeing our country. The good news? A corporate tax reform is planned for 2028 with the goal to lower the tax burden to around 25%, bringing us closer to international standards. 5% less taxes might not sound like a lot, but we're talking about billions of euros here. So if done right, this could help revive investment, boost innovation, and attract global companies back to Germany. But it's not just about businesses. Employees also face heavy deductions. The German government takes about 20% in income taxes and another 32% in social security contributions for things like health insurance and public pension. That puts us near the top of the global rankings, second only to Belgium. Not exactly a list we want to be leading, to be honest. Lowering this burden would give people more disposable income, boost consumer spending, and strengthen the economy from the inside. But so far, the current government hasn't presented any concrete plans to make that happen. So you gotta take everything in your own hands. And if you're wondering how to make the most of your money despite high taxes here in Germany, we can help you out. Our advisors specialize in optimizing finances for expats living in Germany. And the first meeting with us is 100% free. You can book it right here. And finally, before we move to part 2, Germany has the second highest electricity prices in the world. Only Denmark is slightly higher. That's not just bad for households, it's a disaster for companies that rely on large amounts of energy like chemicals, metals, or manufacturing. To fix this, we need massive investment. And not just from companies or private households, but from the government itself. We pay so much in taxes, and we need this public money flowing into infrastructure, technology, and transformation. And that brings us to the real root of the problem. The German government has become one of the biggest obstacles to growth, which leads us straight into part 2. We don't just have an economic problem, we have an execution problem. Our bureaucracy has reached absurd levels. Rules, paperwork, forms, signatures, and then more forms. The IFO Institute estimates that Germany loses 146 billion euros every single year just from bureaucratic inefficiency. Sounds like a lot? It is, don't get me wrong. But to put that into perspective, it's only 3% of Germany's GDP. For many businesses and expats coming here, navigating German regulations feels like fighting windmills. Absolutely exhausting. And speaking of windmills, building one takes on average 7 years. 7 years for one f***ing wind turbine. Meanwhile, other countries are streamlining their public services while Germany is still stuck in the past. And the digitalization of the public sector, a total disaster. The government promised us the Onlinezugangsgesetz in 2017, a law that said we'd be able to handle administrative services digitally. Guess how many of those services are actually online 3 years after the deadline? 80%? No. 50%? Still too generous. It's around 30%. And that's being generous because many of those digital services are just giving you a PDF to print and mail with Deutsche Post. Overall, we rank 23rd in global digitalization behind countries like Estonia, Malta, and Latvia. So, what's the solution to go from we can't do that to how can we make it work? Just like in part 1, we need massive investment, both in digital and physical infrastructure. Tens of thousands of bridges need repairs. Our average internet speed is below the global average, and only 62% of trains arrive on time. And on time means up to 6 minutes late. But unlike in part 1, money alone won't fix this. Because one of the biggest roadblocks isn't funding, it's data protection laws. Don't get me wrong, protecting personal data is important. But in Germany, we use it as an all-purpose excuse to block innovation. Other countries are using smart data systems to fight cancer, optimize infrastructure, and improve everyday life. Here in Germany, we're still arguing whether school grades can be stored in the cloud. Schools and education bring us to the final part of the German downfall. Because when you combine decaying infrastructure with rising inequality, you get the perfect storm of social frustration in the system that's failing its people. Germany's economic and political struggles have real human consequences. Because when growth slows down and when governments fail to deliver, it's everyday people like you and me who pay the price. One of the biggest challenges? Our society is aging fast. 60 years ago, there was 1 retiree for every 6 working people. That's a healthy social security system because you have a lot more people paying in than people taking money out. But today, the ratio is less than 2 to 1. That puts massive pressure on our pension system, overloads the healthcare system, and forces younger generations to pay the bill. And to make things worse, Germany is also facing a massive shortage of skilled workers. Almost 2 million jobs are unfilled, costing us a projected 90 billion euros every year. So, what's the solution? Expats like you coming to Germany to live, work, and build your future. Now we just need smart migration policies that help skilled workers succeed and give you maximum opportunity once you're here. But if there's one more crisis that everyone feels, it's the housing crisis. Rents are exploding. In cities like Berlin and Munich, affordable housing is nearly impossible to find. Why? Because Germany is missing almost 2 million affordable apartments. The government wants to build more homes, but rising construction costs and interest rates have only made things worse. But here's the good news. This crisis, the housing crisis and the overall crisis Germany is in, is not inevitable. Germany has the resources, the know-how, and the potential to turn this around. And many of the solutions, they're already on the table. We need to upgrade our infrastructure and downsize our government restrictions. We need to invest in education and retrain workers for the jobs of the future. We need smart immigration policies to fill labor gaps and stabilize our social security system. And most urgently, we need to build more homes. A lot more affordable homes. Because real estate isn't the problem, it's part of the solution. And if you want to deep dive into what's really wrong with the German real estate market, then this video is for you. Thanks for watching until the very end und bis zum nächsten Mal.